My name is Kingsley, and I'm the CEO of KudiGo. We are an African-based startup focused on consumer retail, and we offer solutions for mostly micro and small retailers across Africa. In this presentation, I'm just going to take you through what we've learned about the consumer retail sector in Africa and how we see the entire industry evolving. Players in fintech, tech, and financial inclusion can do to improve upon the industry at large. I'm sharing my screen with you now. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so without much ado, I'm going to start the presentation now. So 3 years ago, we built a company called KudiGo. Now, Kudi, K-I, in Africa means money. Mostly in West Africa means money. So what we try to do is to help businesses track how they are marketing. This was focused on retail businesses. So by retail businesses, what I'm talking about is brick and mortar stores across Africa who do transactions in consumer retail and other products. Now, per the data that we had before we started to do this company, Africa as a whole is a retail-heavy economy. I mean, in fact, almost in every African country, whether in West Africa or in East Africa, with every residential area you go to, you will see little kiosks where people are selling consumer retail products. And you have big and small markets scattered across various cities in Africa, all dealing in consumer retail products. Now, in the past few years, lots of middle-class people have moved to shopping from shopping malls. I'm sure for those of you in the Western world and in Asia, you are used to big malls and all that. Now, Africa has seen that adaptation as well over the past 10 years. But then the interesting part of all that is that even after today, 90% of the entire consumer retail industry in Africa is still made up of small markets, small kiosks, tabletop sellers, and street hawkers. So despite the fact that there's a huge population who also want to go to malls, the people who actually hold the inventory are small and micro retailers. Now, as technology evolved, Africa leapfrogged the rest of the world in mobile adaptation, in using mobile solutions. But then what, again, we end up realizing is that although e-commerce has grown in Africa largely, and I'm sure you know about Jumia, what you realize is that e-commerce in Africa, even after today, makes up a very tiny fraction of the entire consumer retail market in Africa. For a market worth over $800 billion, e-commerce makes up just $80 billion of that, which tells you that the rest of it is still in actual retail commerce. And to make matters worse or maybe better, out of this number, which is still in retail commerce, a huge chunk of it is still in the hands of markets, kiosks, and tabletop sellers. So we figured that, I mean, if you have this huge number of an industry being held by these people, it was important to figure out how we can make them financially inclusive, help them digitize their business, because if they are able to digitize what they do at retail commerce, then there'll be a clear path to move them into e-commerce, which is really where we want them to get to. So that's what we thought about, and that's what we set out to do in 3 years ago. Now, you look at it critically, what the research will tell you is that retail in Africa is a very big component of the GDPs of almost every African country. Now, Sub-Saharan Africa is the biggest player when it comes to retail. Then you have some parts of Southern Africa, then East Africa as well. But overall, the contribution of retail to the economy of Africa can never be underestimated, and most especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So if this is a critical part of the continent's economy, then it makes sense to figure out how we move these people into a system that helps us track what they do, help them grow their business, and help them scale up by leveraging on tech solutions. So we set out to do exactly that. And what we did at KudiGo was we built a retail tech solution that is a mobile application that sits on any Android mobile phone. So what it simply does is any retailer across Africa can get this app on their Android phone. It's very simplified for their own use. They can use it to update their stock. They can use it to check out stock. They can use it to sell. They can use it to access payments and all that. But the simplification of the application was key, because although a lot of these micro and small retailers are not educated, when you go to their stores, you see them writing in books. So obviously they have a way of keeping records. So what we sought to do was to find out how we can digitize what they do currently without reinventing the wheel. So our app was designed to help them translate that book record into digital record. And interestingly, in just a 24-month period, we've been able to scale across Ghana, Nigeria, and in Kenya as well. And with over 6,000 retailers on our platform, in 2 years, they have processed over 170,000 unique transactions. Now, when we say transactions, what we simply mean is someone goes to the store, wants to buy a product, the merchant takes the product, gives it to the customer, and enters that transaction on the mobile application. So we've done 150,000 of those transactions. And the value of those transactions alone came to over $3.6 million. Now, you realize in my earlier slide, I talked about the value of the entire industry. Now, it's interesting to note that from just 6,000 retailers, of which we have not more than 2,000 being daily active users, they've been able to process in 24 months 3.6 million transactions value. Now, that tells you that if we are to scale up through the entire continent, perhaps the data that Deloitte or KPMG publish about the industry might not just be accurate. And the reason is that till anyone who is publishing any research data on retail in Africa, it's made up largely on assumptions. They do not know what actually happens at the final retail point, because there's no way of capturing that data. So they just extrapolate and say, okay, you know what? If we know for a fact that there are 100 retailers here, we can assume that they are doing X number of transactions every other day. Now, for the first time ever, we have a very high level of verifiable data on these businesses and what they do and how they do it. And as we empower them to use tech, we also try to move a lot of them to more non-cash transactions. And so you will see that you had, in just 3-month period, we were able to move over $58,000 of the transactions we're processing into non-cash. Now, the catalyst of this was by giving them an Android-held point-of-sale terminal, which ran the retail software as well as that card transactions as well. And especially in Nigeria in particular, Nigeria is a very card-heavy economy. When it comes to Ghana, we have what we call mobile money, same in Kenya and same in Rwanda. By Nigeria, there is nothing called mobile money. Everything is card payment. So you go to a store, they have 5 or 6 points of sale terminals, and interestingly, none of them work because of data connectivity and all those other things. But then once you were able to give them an Android L point of sale terminal, that does more than just card processing, but also does retail management for them. You saw them using it more frequently than their bank POSs, which again was an interesting metric for us. Now, more importantly for us is the fact that as of today, we have data on over 180,000 products in inventory on various stores. Now, I'm giving you all these data points to just let you understand what the base is for the industry in Africa and how that industry can grow over time. Now, we try to track a lot of macro and micro data sets. And another interesting component of what the retail industry will tell you and what we know from our data sets is that a high proportion of businesses on our platform are women-owned businesses. And again, interestingly, a high proportion of the people they employ who work for them at their stores are young girls who couldn't finish school. So you see that over time, these young girls who didn't finish school will go work for a retailer in a small kiosk somewhere. And then after a few years, they end up setting up their own store. But then they never grow, they never scale because they are still doing the manual things that they used to do previously. Now, we try to track a lot of social impact for our solution. And this data you're seeing now is real data from a particular store we have in Nigeria, in a state called Enugu in Nigeria. Now, this store in particular, when they first got on our platform, it's a pharmacy. They were using a computer and all those other accessories, but then it wasn't working for them. So they changed it, and then they started using KudiGo Storefront. Now, within the 2 years or the 12 months they've been on our platform, you can clearly see how the solution has impacted their business growth. They've opened 3 additional stores. You can see how their transaction volumes have increased over time. And that clearly tells you that if we are able to use mobile solutions, if we are able to find a way of simplifying digitizations for retail businesses in all these macro and micro industries, there is a clear path for growth for them that will ensure that these businesses can scale and grow bigger over time. Now, we all know the state the world is in right now, which is coronavirus, and no country or no continent has been spared, and Africa has also not been spared. But when coronavirus hit, we try to instantly measure the impact on our businesses. Because remember, I showed you that our solution, which we built, was designed for actual brick and mortar stores. But then when coronavirus hit, what that meant was that there was lockdown. So no one could actually open their stores. And when the lockdown was lifted, there was social distances. And so meaning people were not willing to go to town and go and buy stuff. So instantly, there was a drop in the number of transactions these stores were processing. In fact, it was so bad that most of these businesses ended up shutting down. So instantly, what she realized is that now there is a clear need for these businesses to go e-commerce. But then there are so many problems with e-commerce, from logistics in terms of delivery, from payment processing, from fraud, and even from basics of being able to use the system. But what we managed to do is that because we've already given most of our retailers a retail tech solution that has helped them appreciate tech and appreciate digitization to a large extent, we were able to instantly develop an e-commerce platform for them that was based off what they currently had with their retail commerce platform. So the two came together, and as of today, all our 6,000 retailers have been able to launch their own e-commerce stores based on what they have on their retail commerce platform. And we call it the Storefront Mall, which is more of like a Shopify, where they're able to set up their own online store in 5 minutes. Now, the magic sauce was that for stuff like logistics and delivery, we realized we couldn't do it by ourselves because it's a whole big industry. But then, as of today, you have logistics companies like Uber and Bolt who are big in Africa and who are also moving into delivery services. So on our e-commerce platform, all our delivery is managed through Uber and Bolt. So for the merchants, all they need to do is have our retail solution on their Android phone, make sure they have their stock on it, and instantly they have an e-commerce platform as well. When someone orders online, they are able to get that order on their phone, they accept the order, and then the nearest Bolt or Uber driver comes to pick it up and go and deliver, and all payment happens online. So this clearly tells you that if the focus is given to digitizing retail commerce, and merging it with e-commerce, not only will you have a holistic solution that gives you data on both ends, but you also ensure that to grow with it. Now, we believe at KudiGo that mobile solutions is the key, and retail commerce is the lock that we need to unlock with mobile. And all these people you are seeing there are actual customers on our platform. You can see the guy down there is using his own, he's using one of our Android points to scale up their business because they're able to grow and scale using mobile solutions. Now, it's important to understand the sort of metrics that these tells us. For example, we saw a direct correlation from them getting the technology solution to the sort of features that was important to them. As of today, our software has over 56 unique features on it. But what we again learned was that most of these retailers do not care about almost all the features. They just wanted to do one single thing for them. And the number one thing they always focus on is how they can get their creditors to pay them back. Because you realize that the retail economic sector in Africa is very heavy on debt. So they have this huge book of debtors and they need to figure out when they can pay them. So the number one reason why any retailer on our platform will want to convert to a paying customer of our premium software is because they want to use the credit management module. Another reason that we saw is that there are a lot of varied opinions and in terms of price and how price variations are done. If you go to a typical shopping mall, they change prices probably every other month or every other week. In the actual retail industry in Africa, for what we've seen, everyday prices are changing. And it might be changed based on the fact that they have less stock and do not know when another supply is coming, or because they've heard rumors that they are going to be increasing prices. And also, we've always assumed that people want to capture customer data because customers want loyalty and all those things. That turns out not to be true. Because across all the stores we have on our platform, and we have a lot of them, the least thing they are interested in, even as the retailer, is to ask the customer for their information. The customer is even unwilling to give that information because they don't know why you want to take their phone number or have their name or whatever it is, even if you want to give them a loyalty package as well. So really, there are a lot of myths that people held about the industry that we've been able to demystify those myths with our solution and how we've rolled it out. Now, all these features I've talked to you about is not in isolation because our growth for our retail solution has been directly related to these features that we deployed for these businesses. So as you can see, it's not even a linear growth. It's an exponential growth that we've experienced, where most of the customers who even come on our platform is through word of mouth. Because you go to a market and one market woman has got this device, instantly everyone wants it. Because they believe that if my fellow salesperson has the device and it works for her, I also want the same thing. I don't want to be shortchanged. So it's essential that for anything to happen in Africa with retail or e-commerce, number one, it needs to be focused on the merchants and what is important to them. Number two, trust is key. Trust in the digital system, trust in the data that is being captured, and trust in the fact that the solution will work the way it wants to work for them. Because as of today, any e-commerce player in Africa is at a loss because they've had to hold stock, they've had to set up their own fulfillment centers and all those things. Meanwhile, across every African city, you have brick and mortar stores who have been doing this business for over 50 years. They know how to manage stock properly, they know how to hold stock, they know how to do fulfillment. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel by saying, I'm an e-commerce platform, I'll come and take your product and go and sell for you, what we should rather be looking at doing is to say, hey, You are a retailer. You've done this for so long. Can we give you tech that will help you grow your customer base, access much more data on your business, get loans and all that? And that instantly is a different narrative. Because what that helps you do is that you, the tech provider, you focus on the tech part of the business, whereas the retailer focuses on the retail part of the business, and the two come together to scale up the entire industry. Now, the other critical thing that we did from the onset was to make our solution industry independent. So as you can see, we do not only have consumer retail stores on our platform, we have electronic stores on our platform, we have frozen food stores on our platform, we have pharmacies on our platform. What that instantly tells you is that these retailers have instantly created our e-commerce category for us. Because we don't need to now wonder what the category should be for our e-commerce platform, whether it should be heavily focused on essential products or cosmetics or all that. They are telling us that. And you will see a very high volume of uncategorized stores. And let me tell you how that data comes out. You go to a pharmacy where you expect to buy drugs, right? But in Africa, you go to a pharmacy to buy drugs. The pharmacy also sells Coca-Cola. The pharmacy also sells stuff that are not pharmaceutical products. So at that point, are they really a pharmacy or are they a convenience store? And really attaching these labels and these stereotypes to these businesses is something they are not comfortable in. Because for them, they will sell whatever moves. They don't really mind being a boutique or being a supermarket. They just sell what product moves in the market. So what I wanted to share and communicate with this presentation is the fact that e-commerce in Africa is going to grow. There's no doubt about that. But for e-commerce in Africa to grow, we need to focus on digitizing retail commerce. And that is the most important part of it. If we are able to digitize retail commerce, then e-commerce will benefit from that. And the learning curve will be less. Any tech player in the industry will have a much lower learning curve, and we will not need to reinvent the wheel. Because Africa has always leapfrogged technology. This is not the first time it's happening. So it's important that instead of trying to adapt a foreign solution in an African context, what we need to focus on is adapt an African context to an Africa-centric solution and ensure that the key players in the industry are those who we enable and empower to be able to grow the solution. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to take questions now. I see a couple of questions in the chat box. Okay, so Vince had a question. Does the system work in Asia? So there are similar solutions in Asia we know about, but our solution is built for Africa, so we do not intend to roll it out to Asia anytime soon, because Africa alone is a big enough economy for us. So our solution works only in Africa, because that's how we've built it. But there are other solutions in Asia we know about, some in India, and I think some in Malaysia as well. Will mobile technology be the winner in post-COVID-19? Well, it already is the winner, because right now, I mean, although most African countries have opened up after COVID-19, there is still a lot of unknowns. So governments and industry players are pushing a lot of people to social distance and to shop when they can stay at home without coming to the store. And every single African, in fact, 7 out of 10 Africans can afford a simple Android smartphone. So obviously, mobile is the way for Africa, which has always been in terms of financial inclusion. So that really is where we need to look at, ensuring that the mobile phone becomes more than just a phone to chat on WhatsApp, but it becomes a phone that also helps businesses grow and scale in these times and are able to, scale up their businesses as well. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, Vince had another question. Okay, no. Okay, so are there any other questions? Any more questions? Okay. So in the absence of any more questions, thank you all for joining the session. The presentation will be available for anyone who wants it. And you can pass by our booth, KudiGo, and interact with us. We'll be happy to share any information you need on Africa and how tech is moving Africa into the next slide. And thank you all for joining, and I look forward to meeting you in the Incubation Center. Thank you and have a great conference.